Welcome to the NWI.com Political Roundtable for Friday, December 28th. I'm Robert Blaskowitz, Assistant Managing Editor of The Times. Join with me, a special guest today, Bodhi Atway, Times business writer. And Bodhi is joining us to talk about the fiscal cliff, the issue surrounding that, and the impact on people here and on the local economy. So you've probably heard a lot of talk about the fiscal cliff. It's this basically a bunch of things that are set to happen on January 1st unless some other deal is reached. So, for example, the one of the biggest things is the Bush tax cuts would end for everybody. So everybody would see kind of a big chunk of their paychecks go out the window next year if nothing is done. But also there's a bunch of severe budget cuts that will happen across the board. So Bo, what would the impact here be?
Well, most immediately, we believe the impact from the fiscal cliff, which is this combination of spending cuts and tax hikes. Most immediately, people who previously received federally extended unemployment benefits, those benefits are going to shut off by the end of the year. The Indiana Department of Workforce Development estimates that about 40,000 people were going to lose benefits. And on average, people receive $290 a week. So immediately you're going to see that's roughly $11.6 million being taken away from people around the state. And then you have, if you want to figure out how many more weeks people would have earned on federal extended unemployment benefits, obviously that number goes a lot higher than 11.6. Another thing that's going to change is, we have the tax rate changing. So, I mean, if, absent action from Washington, and there's been a lot of political bickering, so it almost turns into a fiscal cliffhanger, waiting for something to happen. Obviously, income tax rates are going to change for everyone across the board. So, from the lowest bracket to the highest bracket, people are definitely going to see their withholding is definitely going to change. Another thing that's going to go away immediately is the payroll tax holiday. And what that is basically for the average person, for the average family, it basically is $20 per paycheck. But what that is the Social Security tax withholding goes back up from 4.2% to 6.2%. So that's, depending on where you fall, that may be up to $1,000 a year. That is no longer that previously went to Social Security, but instead was routed to paychecks. Well, now it goes back to Social Security, and in the talks, it's not clear, whether that would. It's not clear whether that rate is going to be changed if a deal gets reached in Washington.
Right.
So those are immediate things that are going to happen and people are going to notice.
Right. It seems like a lot of the debate in Washington has centered on the tax cuts and kind of the level at which the taxes are going to go up. The White House is pushing for $250,000. The Democrats are, and John Boehner offered a Plan B that ended up kind of going down in flames last week, where I think it was $1 million was the level. I don't think a lot of people are kind of understand the marginal rates, and I think it's in ways the Democrats kind of do themselves a disservice by explaining it the way they do when they say, just preserving the cuts for those making under $250,000. It would actually preserve the cuts for everybody,
yes.
but on the first $250,000 of income. So, in fact, a millionaire, would get a larger tax cut than you and I because we're, unfortunately not making quite $250,000. Sure. So they would actually enjoy a tax cut on that first $250,000 of income. We enjoy the tax cut on all our income, which is significantly less than $250,000.
Sure.
So I think it's important to kind of when you're talking about this debate to understand what the marginal tax rates mean, and I think it kind of puts the Republicans in a tough spot when they're protecting those, politically. They're protecting those tax rates, and it's something, obviously the president campaigned on this issue.
Absolutely.
And he won re-election. So it seems like, do you think that maybe after January there may be some more incentive because the taxes have gone up and because the Republicans will be, in effect, not be voting for a tax increase?
I think there's
that there might be some political more political pressure
Sure.
to get something done.
I think there's pressure across the board. I mean, in essence, no one really wants to see their taxes, increase. Regardless of where you fall politically. The pressure increases when people start missing money in their paychecks,
Right.
and they see if this drags out until income tax filing time. Obviously, the rates for 2013 those aren't going to hit until 2014. But I mean, these are issues that people are going to see impact them. And we just had a story that ran in today's paper that people around here think that it's already impacted the market psychologically. So people are assuming that their tax rates are going to go up. People are assuming that they're going to have less money available. So in essence, you have an economic slowdown. You have people that aren't spending as much money. If that continues, then the businesses are going to notice that they'll be impacted. Whether it impacts employment is too soon to say, but you're going to have this sort of this domino effect of things that are happening, and the bigger that gets, the more pressure there definitely is going to be on a solution. And then there's the debt ceiling issue that we're probably going to reach early next year. Something likely has to be done by that, whether we're going to increase the debt ceiling or whether we're just going to rely on the spending cuts and the tax increases to create a buffer for the nation. But yeah, there are a lot of things that are happening that is going to force Washington's hand to do something, and I think people want something to be done, regardless of what that is.
Right. Well, I mean, the risk of recession. I mean, you have a double whammy with not only if people's taxes are going up, there's less spending money that they have, but also paired with these severe cuts in government. The government spends money that puts money into the economy. That if that money's not going into the economy, it's kind of a double whammy, and you really are risking. People say that you definitely risk the country falling back into recession.
Sure. I mean, retail sales weren't as strong as expected. Now we could, there's arguments on why that was the case, but since the fiscal cliff is sort of dominating discussions, that's the first thing that a lot of analysts looked at and say, well, maybe this is all these issues that we're talking about. They've gotten a lot of media attention. Obviously, we're talking about it now, but this process has already started. So people were since the recession were trying to deleverage, increase their savings. But people feel a little better. They spend a little bit more money. But any shock to confidence is definitely going to change people's spending habits. And this has already started. And like going into next year, we'll see if it continues. But that in itself may be enough to get a deal done. But at this point, I guess it's still too soon to tell.
Right. Yeah. There's a lot of moving, and you mentioned the debt ceiling. There's a whole other part of this, and the debt ceiling is kind of an interesting, aspect of this, because really, when you're talking about the debt ceiling, you're talking about, paying the bill, the money you've already spent. Paying your bills. It's kind of I think I kind of compare it to your credit card statement.
Absolutely.
It's not responsible to, after you've run up a big credit card bill, to say, well, I'm going to do the responsible thing, and I'm not going to pay this bill at all. The responsible thing is to pay the bill and then go back and curtail your future spending. So that the whole debt ceiling, I think, is kind of this kind of red herring that is used in terms. The sin was not raising the debt ceiling. The sin was the spending in the first place that raised the national debt.
But some people argue that the next argument, the counter to that is obviously, well, if you don't stop spending, or these incredible amounts of money. I mean, we're talking about trillions of dollars. I mean, to everyday folks, that's a hard one to kind of wrap your head around, just how much money that is. But I mean, it's we're likely going to reach it, and whether something has to be done. At least a lot of economists say the debt is growing at is growing at an unsustainable rate. Something's going to have to change if the nation doesn't want to default on its credit, which it never has done, and that in itself could be devastating. So it's more more political bickering in Washington is expected next year, and I guess we're all along for the ride.
The drama will obviously continue probably into the new year, and hopefully we'll see the sides get together and come up with a sensible deal. So hopefully not long after the first of the year, but it's looking pretty tough right now.
Sure.
Well, thanks. That's all the time we have for this week. Thanks for watching, and have a happy New Year. We'll be back in 2013 with more political roundtables.
Absolutely. Have a great New Year.